recording started. And when you have a question, you can post it in the chat, and hopefully I will read it. So first off, we create. No, the first thing we need to do is to set up our program. So one thing you need to do is go to your settings, and let's go to this settings, and it's this one, appearance of black. We will not need this especially today, but it will be relevant for other work, for other parts. For example, if you make a black sound word, it is important that your program can make rich black and pure black, 100%, 100K black and rich black. I will explain this later. It's not important for now, but you should have this set up as I have it here. So if you make something that is rich black and something that it is 100K black, it should go in the output as all blacks as accurately. This is the correct setting. And display all blacks accurately. This is important because I've downloaded this Illustrator new in English. It wasn't set correct here. So save this. And the other thing you need to do is to go to your color settings. I think, yeah, this is already set up. So you need to set your CMYK. I use this profile. If you don't have it, you can find it on the internet easily. But this is a setting I use. There are different um, color profiles that are used at printers in the United States, but from my experience, this works with US publishers and with European publishers as well. You can also check out your printing company. If you go for printing, just ask your printing company which color profile they use and place this here. If you're working for a client, ask your client which color profile they need, and they should tell you this. So this is important to have set up. CMYK, convert to working space. So the next thing we need to do is to create our actual template, and we create a new file, and we go for US letter. This is the size which our template will have. Make sure it's 8.5 to 11, and make sure it is in CMYK. This is super important, and make it set into high. You can set it into lower, but high is always important for this. And then create. So I need to go to my notes so I don't forget anything. So preferences, color settings set. So now we have the US letter in 8.5 to 11 in CMYK. So then the first thing we need to create is the bounding box. The bounding box is important for the placement on the artwork later, and I will explain in the last steps why the bounding box is one of the most important things for the template. So the next thing you need to do is to create a rectangle. Go to this rectangle tool. So you can create a rectangle like this if you click on the mouse and don't let go. But if you just make a single click like this, it will show you this. And here you can you can click the specs for the page. So a standard US page is 6.875. Oh, 6.875 to 10.4375. So now we have a rectangle. I use this alignment window to place it in the center. You can also do it manually, but I prefer this because that way I have it really centered without a mistake that can happen when you place it with a mouse. After that, we go to this and make it with non-fill. And then we go to this, and this is really important. We make the stroke align to the inside. I will show you which effect this has. So at the moment, this is the actual rectangle line, and the stroke is centered. So the stroke goes to the left and to the right of this line because the alignment is set to this. With this, I let the stroke go to the inside. See it? It goes now to the inside. This is very important for the bounding box. So after this, I will copy it. And then set the opacity to 0 because we don't need to see it. It should be invisible. That's very important. So we can't see it anymore. It isn't there, but we can't see it. Now we lock this layer and we create a new one. Here we will have safety and trim. If you have any questions, you are free to ask in the chat. So in the safety and trim, we will create a some boxes that show us the 3 important things of a page. I can show it here. The 3 basic boxes are the trim area, so the trim line, the full bleed line, and the safety zone. These are the important lines that we need for each comic book template that is supposed to go to printing. So we go back to our new one, and now we will paste in place the box we already created. So we have it now here visible. This is okay. On this layer we have basically the same line as in the bounding box, but we can see it here. The next box we will create is the trim line. And again, we click on the rectangle box. And this one is 6.625 to 10.1875. If you're going to print or to produce your book in a different size, you have to switch those numbers, but I will do this template and this whole workshop for the standard US printing size. So this is our new one again. place it centered. And we can switch the color. Let's do this like red, a good strong red. So this line tells us, actually the red line tells us later, this area outside the red box will be cut on the printing process. So the red line tells us where the cutting process will be done during the printing. The next box, the next rectangle we produce is the safety area. And this is the most important for us as letterers. It is 6.625 to 9.6875. And again, we can place this centered, and I actually failed it again. It needs to be, oh, it should be 6.125 to 9.6875. Now it should be correct. Again, set it centered. Yes, it's correct. And let's switch the color. For example, a blue one, strong blue one. Yes, and just so it doesn't take too much attention, we can make it dashed like this. Here in the stroke window, we can click on dashed, and then we have it look like this. We can make the dashes a bit stronger, a bit longer, or shorter. You can switch it to like 15 or even smaller, like 8. So how you prefer it, it's not that important. You can have this one centered and also this one centered. That's fine. So now we have some lines that tell us where the safety zone is, and the trim line and the full bleed area. The safety zone, the blue zone, tells us actually where we are allowed to letter. No lettering should be outside this blue box. So if you have a word, a balloon text, the text is supposed to stay inside this blue area. That's why it is so important. The same goes for the sound words. Artwork is allowed to be outside. That doesn't count for the artwork. But for the artwork, it is important that nothing important is outside this safety area. So if your character is holding something important in the artwork, or the telephone is ringing now. So if there's something important you want to show in the artwork, it should be inside this safety area. So after we have done this, we can just lock it. Now we have the template set for the US size. Yeah, I can show it to you. Mark told me I should. I can do this the easiest way in Photoshop because I have a comic book template there. And you can get this comic book template on my Gumroad shop, but let me show you again how the so if I go to Photoshop and open this, and I can place this here. So This is an actual comic book template I use for my comic books. And again, you can see it here. The full bleed area, which is red. We can just to show it to you, this is the red one. The trim line is the green one. And the safe area is the blue one. So now you should be able to see the whole page as it should look now. And you can see which line is which one and the exact numbers that you need. I can make a screenshot for you. So I think this should help. Oh, maybe let's make it with the full page. You don't need this. You can cut this and this. And I will make a screenshot for you and post it in the chat so you have the full numbers. Copy it, no, and just place it in the chat. So here you have it, the important numbers. So we can close this and go back to our version of the template, which uses the same numbers, exactly the same numbers. So next step. After this one, we can create a new layer. Oh, can you please mute yourself? Thank you. The next layer we have is for the artwork. Most people place the artwork above the safety area, but I prefer it under the safety area. And this is the actual layer where you place the artwork. Like, for example, you go to place, pick, let's go to, I made one piece of artwork for this course, sample, unsaved, that's not important. Oh, let's go. Let's place any random piece of art. Comic projects. Let's place one from the Impure art files. And let's pick this one. So we place it here and then we center it. And as you can see, it totally fits to my template. And normally I reduce the opacity, like to this one, so we can see the lettering better than we see the artwork. And then I lock it. That's how I place my artwork. And we can kick this because for our template we don't need any artwork. So the next layers we need the preview of the Impure. The Impure is a comic book I created and it's actually at the printer now. So you create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more layers. And I hope these are 5. Yeah, let's see if there are actually 5 we need. The top one is for the text. This one will be for the text. The next one is for the sound words. Sound words, or we can just make SFX. And the next one is for the top balloons. The next one, like I told you, the tails are in between the top balloon and the bottom balloon. So these are the layers you need now. These are all locked when you don't work with them because it helps me not to click on the wrong object. So this is basically the template. You can save it now. Let's save it. Oh, don't show again. Again, this is the first one I use, this Illustrator version. Let's save it on my course, lettering course, and sample lettering template. Let's save this. So now we have it. The next thing we need to do is to create our actual balloons and our tails that we want to use. So let's go to balloons and zoom in here. You can't see my cursor, so I will explain this a bit more slowly, and I hope it will work. So just the first thing we need to do is to go to the ellipsis tool and create a basic ellipsis. So Mark just told me he can't see my cursor. So I think then you should all be able to see my cursor. But still, I don't think it's wrong if I explain this slowly. So first thing we need to do is to create an egg-shaped balloon like this, an ellipsis that is not dashed and has a white fill and no stroke. You can do this here. So again, white fill here, white fill, no stroke, and no dashed line. Because we did in the rectangle tool with a dashed line, it thinks we want a dashed line again. So now we have the basic shape. To make it more comic book-like, we can change the shape a bit. You can do it as you want. For beginners, I actually recommend to look to the internet for lettered pages from professional publishers and letterers, and just to understand the shapes you prefer, you can actually trace them just to understand it, to learn how an organic looking balloon should be shaped. So you need to take this tool now, it is called the direct selection tool. So we have two selection tools, the black one and the white one. The black one is for the whole shape, and the white one is for the single anchor points. And what we do now with the white selection tool is go into the area without anchors. So an anchor is here, here, and here. Here's the fourth one. So we go in between those areas and click like this. So now we have the left side of the shape selected. And we can go to our keyboard and just press left and shape it like this. Or you can go to the right and shape it like this. Just go an extreme. You can do it like this or like this. This makes no sense, but if you want a balloon that is more rectangle shaped, you can do it like this. And if you want it equally shaped on both sides, you just can count the times you use the arrow, the left arrow. So if you want it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can go to this area and do the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can also go to this area and go 1, 2, and to this area 1, 2. So you're free to do how you want it. But I think it looks a bit cooler if it's a bit more rectangle shaped. But this is totally up to you. You're free to do it as you want, as you prefer it. And I totally recommend um, to look at established letterers, professional letterers, and study their work and learn from them. And then you have a better instinct, a better understanding of what looks good, what works, and then you can do your own balloons without any big issues. So once we have the balloon, um, we place it into the right layer. So to do this, we select the balloon, and you can see this blue box, this blue box. It shows us in which layer we have selected what. So you can move this, you click on it, and move it to the top balloon layer. And now it is in the top balloon area. We do this again. We have this object in the bottom area, in the bottom balloon area. We click on it and move this box to the top balloon. And this only goes if both layers are unselected, unlocked. And we have it now in the top balloons area. So what we do now is to make a copy of this. Then we lock this and go to the bottom balloon area. And we can just make it invisible and paste it in place. So now we have a copy of the balloon. What we do need to do now is to make it black and give it a stroke, a black stroke. So, and it should have like 1.5. And it is important now that is set to centered, like I explained to you. The stroke, let us just, the stroke is centered along this line. This is important because if it's inside and we place the top balloon above it, we can't see it. If we make it outside and place the top balloon above it, the stroke will be too thick. And later in the printing process, it is possible that we have in between those areas some small strokes that we don't want. So we make it centered. This is important. And this way we have the exact strength of the stroke that we need. Yeah, totally correct. Dunkringer says for rough comics, try to use shapes that are not symmetrical. Totally correct. For the right comic style, I love when the balloons look more organic and have more dynamic shapes. It should fit to the content of the comic book. And but for this comic book, we will take a standard shaped, more symmetrical style, just for the purpose of this workshop. So the next thing, what is important, just to show it again to you, we can make the opacity of the white balloon a bit down, and you can see the black stroke is exactly in the center now. This is important. And let's take back the opacity. And let's go back to the bottom balloon because we are not done with it. There's another thing we need to do with the bottom balloon. So again, black filling. We need black filling again. And you should check this. You go to the attributes, to Windows, and there's somewhere attributes. I don't know where it is now, but it should be there. And click on this overprint stroke, because it is this way we make sure this stroke doesn't get lost in the printing process. So once we have this, you can place it, you can do many balloons more. You can do as many as you need, as you want. You can shape them like you want, but that's the way you need to do it. The next thing we need to do is the tail. Let's go to the tails layer and let's do the tail. We need the pen tool, which is this one. And now it's important. You click on one point and don't let go. Just hold it. Oh no, again, no. The first time you just click at one point, just click and let go. The second time you click here and now you don't let go. And when you don't let go, you can do it like this. You can shape the line or you make it more curved as you want. And for a tail, we want it like, let's make a tail that looks a bit like this. And then go back and click again on this point. And then go to a point here, like here. Oh, like here, and don't let go again. I did it. And then go back and then connect it. I will do it again just to show it to you. And make it white fill. Oh no, we need white fill. I will show it to you again. So use the pen tool, go at one point, click on it, and let go. Then go to a second point, and now you don't let go. You hold it. And then you shape the curve you need or you want as you preferred. And again, for this one, don't feel bad for downloading a professional comic book, and just for this purpose of learning how a good shaped tail should look like, to trace a one. Now let go and click on this point again to let this anchor point, the shaping point, let go. So, and then go to a third point and again hold it, don't let go, and shape it as you want. It doesn't need to be perfect at this point. Again, click on this point and then connect it. So now you need to set the thickness. I hate the English th, the thickness. I'm sorry, my English is not perfect. So we set the stroke to 0.71, 0.71, and we have it. Again, overprint stroke is important here. We already have it set. And now we can go to the white direct selection tool again. We can click here and shape it again if you want it a bit more curved. Let's go to this one and shape it here. Maybe making a bit thinner. So, I want this less curved. And someone is already asking me why don't we make it 0.75, because the stroke outside here is actually, because of the top balloon, halved. So the stroke in the bottom balloon is, as we can see it here, 1.5. So the stroke of the tail should actually be halved, but instead I used a stroke of, let's go back to the tails, of 0.71. There's no specific reason then, because the letterers who found out these numbers learned this works best for the printing process. Um, my teacher told me this was actually discovered by some letterers at DC Comics, and they found out that having the stroke at 0.71 is actually better than having it 0.75. That's just the experience that comes from people who are in this industry much longer than I am. And I learned to use this number, and I still use it. So, oh, another thing you need to do is to have on the balloons a rounded corner. I forgot this. On the balloons, there should be a rounded corner. For this shape, it doesn't make any change, but for the bottom balloon here, the stroke, because it will make a difference when the shape of the balloon becomes more rectangle than this one, and you still want it to be round, you should have the stroke always be set at here, corner, round corner. So, and for the tail, we do the same, a round corner, because we don't want it so sharp like this. This is wrong. Should be rounded, and it should be 0.71. So this is how it's supposed to be. Same goes for the cap. Now we have our tail and we have our balloon ready. And we can do many more tails, many more balloons in different variations, and fill the whole template with it. And once we have done this, it should look like, let's go to my impure template like this. I have different balloons for electronic devices. For locations, I have this type of caption. I have different color variations for the captions for different characters. I have my dialog text. I have my caption text. And I have many tails that are for different purposes. And you can do it as you prefer and as you want it. You can create tails as you prefer them and balloons as you prefer them. You can use any style. Just for this one, the electronic device, I created my unique brushes. So I can show it to you. Let's make this. I go to a balloon. I select the bottom and the top balloon, both. And as you can see, because I have two objects selected, which are on different layers, you see a box here and a box here. That shows me that the bottom and the top balloons are both selected. So I go to, let's go to library. And the library, I should have brushes on my lettering folder. The impure soundword palette, it should be lettering brushes. Yeah, now we have them. These are brushes I created. And with this one, I can create this kind of stroke. This one or this one. You can create all kinds of strokes, stroke brushes you want. But this is a different lesson you need to learn. It's not important for a basic template, and it's a bit out of the main purpose of this workshop. So once we have our lettering template set up like this, it will take some time to have everything set up. For example, to have your font correctly formatted. The best way I can recommend is actually to print the page in the correct size and check if you can read it, or to copy again a published comic book into your template and look how it can how big the font is, how the space in between the letters is. And for this font, I have this settings like 7-point size, um, 7-point size, and the space between is 28, and the actual letters are just at 93% width. So the corners are not actually the shape of the filled blob, but are the shape of the outline of the blob. What is a blob? Um, uh, shape. Full blob. Just to make this clear, um, if you want to work in the comic book industry, we use the word balloon, and bubbles and blobs are not the correct term for this. Um, that's why I was confused. We say balloons. So the corner of so the corners are not actually the shape of the filled balloon, um, but are the shape of the outline of the balloon, which just goes smaller. So it looks like the balloon has pointed edges. Did I see that right? Let's go back to this. So the balloon is just this object. It can be a single object, or like this, it is made of two single objects that are placed above each other. So when I talk about the balloon, the balloon is the full thing, and I meant like the filling. I meant your special ones that have corners. Ah, now I understand. You are talking about these ones. Um, these are custom brushes I built myself. Um, it's a bit complicated to create these kind of brushes, but what they do is actually they change the stroke. If you go if you'd go to a balloon and let's make a red stroke. Let's make a stroke that is red. So what I can do is to use different brushes that are affecting this stroke. Like I can choose this one. This is a basic Adobe Photoshop brush, and it adds this shape, this brush shape to the whole stroke. So, and what I have are custom made brushes that I made myself, these lettering brushes. And these change the stroke shape to triangles. And because the balloon is curved, these triangles are curved too because they follow the shape or the path of the stroke. That's what's going on here. If I have, for example, I can show it to you, a rectangle like this, and add the stroke, it looks a bit confusing. Doesn't work actually here. Can make it bigger, can make it smaller. It looks strange. So this brush I made is actually not working on rectangle shapes. So the advantage of this stroke is the following. If I change the size of the balloon, the distance of this shape is always the same. Look, if I have a balloon that has this size and just copy it and paste it and reduce the size, you can see this the size of the corners is always the same. So this that's the advantage of using this kind of strokes. It has always the same shape. And just to show you what to explain this to you, or to show you, let's make let's make uh, let's use this one again. So we have two that are the same size. And now I make object crop, unlock all, edit. Where can I object? Again, this is the first time I use it in English. So nevertheless, this is not really important for the actual course. I wanted to show it to you how it can look if I have it in different sizes, but I totally forgot. I can just let's to show it to you quickly. I can show it to you my German version. Oh, it is on object, the first one in the second line. So object, and it should be, yeah. So object, it's now a single object. Now in this balloon is now a single object with different shapes, and the edge corners are not strokes now. So these are not strokes. If I change the size now, as you can see, the size of the corners also switch. This is the advantage of having brushes, because you can change the size without changing this edges. But if it's a single object that you want to readjust in a different size, it will also change the size of this corner. So that's the advantage of having brushes. This is, for example, important for thought balloons. So let's make everything back to how it's supposed to be. So I will show it to you. Here, the consistency of thought balloons and radio. So if you change the size of this object, you can see it's different, inconsistent. And here it is consistent. And here it is consistent. The size of each curve has the same as it has on the bigger balloon. The same goes for this one. The size, the space between those curves is the same as it is on the smaller balloon. So we want to keep consistency in our style, in our template, and that's why we create this kind of stroke effects that make these thought balloons and this radio effect balloons and all kind of effects. It's for consistency purpose. So now we want to letter a page. So I have my template here, and I will now place my artwork, lettering course, and sample. I hope it's, oh no, again. Oh, this is the correct place. Oops, it's in the wrong layer. Again, we go to artwork, unlock, and now we can place it again. Now it should work. This one, place. And we use this one again to center it. Yeah. So then set the opacity to something like this. It should be enough that we can see the artwork, but it shouldn't be too much. and lock this. And now we can go to our script. For the purpose of this course, I will just write the text down as it is in the finished page. Let's go to my text that I need, the English lettering, and it's this page. So the first text is a location. I can close this, we don't need this. And we go to the text layer, and again, it's helpful if you always have everything you don't need locked and everything that you don't really need, because for example the info text, it's for me it's irritating to have too much on this page, so I make this invisible. Other people prefer it always to be on. I like it to be off. And I just pick my sample here from my template. I make a copy and just paste. So on my location, I have, as you can see, two versions of it. One that is casting this shadow below. So the first location says Planet Castor. And the time says 15. If there's any typo, I'm sorry. Because normally I just copy paste it. I just copy paste it and then I insert it. This is actually not the final lettering template for the book I'm using as a reference. It's just the one we have. I have prepared for this course. So you can just let's, oh, there it is, copy, edit, paste in back, move it like this, and fill it with the correct color. I will take one random now. It's not important to have the correct color for this course, but just to make it a bit quicker, we can place it as we want. It's just important that you have it consistent in your comic book. So once you know how to place exactly the shadow behind the location text, it should be always the same. You can also use a different method. I don't know if I know how to do it in the English version, but you can go to the FX and let's see, it's round corner, feather, drop shadow, stylize. You go again, I can show it to you. You go to properties and there's this FX button, which is for effects. Then you go to stylize and place a drop shadow. And you can make normal and you can make it like blue and make it 100% opacity and zero blur. And Oh, I should, of course, also set again stylize drop shadow. Let's make like 2. And it should work now. For some reason it's not working now, but it's you just have to play around with it, and once you have the settings you want, it should work. Again, this is the first time I'm using with Illustrator in English, so this kind of stuff can sometimes be confusing for me. So, oh, Mark just told me we didn't see it because it was too big. Let's do it again. Make a special effect, stylize, and make a drop shadow and make it like 3. Oh yeah, here you can see it. It was too big. It's because it's in inches and not millimeters. That was confusing to me. Stylize, drop shadow, cancel, make it back, and again, drop shadow, and make it like 0.3. Make it 3.12. Yeah, we can use less. Let's make less. You have to find the numbers that work for you. Stylize, drop shadow. Let's make it like, yeah, that's a good number. It could be a bit more, but it's not important, just you know it. So that's the location. Important for this one is um, everything we place, especially captions, it should be not too close to the panel edges, to the lines or to the white area. Because if we have it like here and you zoom out, it doesn't look good if it's too close there. So you have to find a good placement, a good placement for the text that works for you, and you can again print it and test it, and when it works for you, um, you have your numbers, and then make it consistent in your whole comic book. Always use the same numbers for everything, so you have a consistency. Now the actual fun part comes, the text writing. And for text writing, we want it to be, for the standard comic book style, the text to be diamond shaped. And I will show it to you. So for this one, don't copy this one. We make a new one. There are again 2 ways to make text. One way is to create a box like this, and another way is just to click on a point like this. And there's a difference between that. So if you have a box like this and we just click on a point, the difference is the style of these boxes. And you can see it here. Here this is black, and here this is white. And what makes this is, if I change the size here, the the size of the box is changing, but the text size is the same. If I do this on this one, you can see the text is also changing in size. So for our purpose, we want it to be like this one. So we create a text box like this, um, like this. If you accidentally make a box like this, you can easily change this by double clicking here. Now it is black. And the same goes for here. If you make a double click here, it changes like this. And now when you change it, you're changing the whole size of the text. And if you want it back, you again make a double click. And now you can change the box without affecting the text. So let's get rid of this and this and this. And just for showing purpose, I will take another font, change my settings here, play a bit around with it, and write the text. As you can see, I now made a single click, but that's okay because we learned how to change it. Just make a double click and then make it a bit bigger. So the text here is Minerva Nero. And now there comes an ellipsis. And for ellipsis, we don't make three single points. We don't make this. We don't make this. That's not how we do it. We make just a single one and then we go to glyphs, to this one. You can go here to window and then go to type and then open the glyphs window. And then you can scroll down and look for the correct ellipsis. This one is the one we need. We always use real ellipses instead of three single points. This is important to know. So then it goes on. If I have a typo, don't be angry at me. We have a custom point. And another important thing, can you hear me? Um, I was told that I was muted. I don't know how this happened. So I just told you I wanted to explain to you how to get a real ellipsis. There are different ways to get a real ellipsis. I always use the glyphs window and just make a single click and then we have it. So the next thing I will do to this text is make it centered, and then I normally change the font how it's set in my template, and for this I created an action. This action exactly changes all the settings of this font how I need them, the size, the space in between the letter lines, the space in between the symbols and everything that is relevant for the lettering. So after we have the text ready, we shape it. And the whole idea, as I said, is to create a diamond shape. Um, we could do it like this. Maybe just to make it more shaped like a diamond is like this. I don't know if it's the same way. Yeah, can make it like this. And after we have done this, we place it like here. Oh, again, already can see a typo. Minerva, Nero. And what we do next is we place the balloon. For this, we lock the text and we go to the balloon. And at this point, we can unlock these three. And we choose a balloon from our template. And it's important that we select both the top version and the bottom version. And then we copy it and we paste it. And at this point, both are now in one layer. Normally, I move both to the bottom layer. And I will now just choose the top one and place this back to top. So now both balloon parts are in the correct layer, the top and the bottom one. Then I go to the text, and because the text layer is locked, I can now choose it, select it without having the text selected. And then I shape the balloon as I need it. And the space between the balloon stroke and the text should be like at least one letter, one X should have space between those. So if I make an X, I use an O. Oh, I prefer to use an O. This should at least be possible to be in between. Most letters use less than I do. Some letters use more than I do. That's a stylistic decision you can take, but it should be at least one letter space in between those, and you should be consistent with it. Once you know a specific space between the text and the stroke, you should keep it consistent for the whole title or the book you're working on. That's the most so the next thing, once we have chosen that or we have shaped that, we can after we have placed the balloon, we can still shape it like we've done before. We can do it as we want. If you want it more rectangly or more sharp edges, more eggy, we can do that. There's again, it's your personal preference, and it's something about the aesthetic of the book that you want to do. So the next thing we do is to place the tail. And for the tail, it's again basically the same space that we need. Where's my tail? I think I just selected a tail. No, there's. Let's take this one, make a copy, and place it in the tails layer. We are now in the tails layer. File, object, paste. And for this one, you can use O again. I place it here like this. And we go to the tailback. And we place it here in the center. And the space here should be around the same size as in single letter 2. Again, if you want this area thinner or thicker. And you can do that, of course, but again, it should be consistent in your style. And for this, you can actually create some kind of ruler like I did in this template. I have this green point here in my ruler thing that I use for the tails. I place them like here and shape the tails around this. That's totally fine. Uh, but when you do this for longer and longer, you will get a better instinct for the correct shape and for the correct size of your style. Um, so once we have placed the text here, let's assume, because the time is running, I wanted to keep this in 19 minutes. Um, uh, because we wanted to keep this in 90 minutes. Let's say we have all the lettering text on this page set. How do we actually place the lettering now onto the artwork? For this, after we have done everything, the next step we do is I'm happy this isn't in German. It would sound even weirder. Yes. So the next thing we do is we go again back to the text. We can just select all the text, and I think it is possible to select yes, you can go to select object and select all text in objects. So now we have selected all the texts. And convert it into vectors. This would be our next step. But before we do this, we delete. We delete everything that is not part of the actual lettering, because we have now finished the lettering of the page. We don't need the template now. So we go to text and delete every text that is outside our page, which is this one. Delete it. We go to the left side and delete all sound words that we don't need, like this. Kicked. We don't need the ruler for distance that we have created. Don't need it. We can delete it completely. We don't need the top balloons outside the lettering. We delete them. We don't need the tails outside the lettering. We delete them. We don't need the bottom balloons outside. We delete them. We don't need the complete info layer. We don't need this for the final lettering. So we delete it completely. And we don't need the safety and trim area, but we can leave it, just hide it. And the artwork can also be deleted. So now we should be able to have this on. And again, I totally forgot where this was placed, because this template was actually created by Mark, and Mark placed this one here. And you shouldn't have some objects that are hidden somewhere, because these objects can make trouble later. So always have an eye on the objects you create for the template. Kick them, because we don't need them now. So now we have just the lettering here. And now we can go, the bounding box should be locked. This is important, the bounding box. It's hidden in a sub layer. It's not invisible. So we can now go to select and select all text in this object. We can also do this manually. We can use them one by one. That's not really important, but the fastest way is to have everything selected at once. But I will do this here for this purpose. We first transform it to this shape because with as I showed you before, when it is this way, before we write it, we will have this trouble. But this format of the text will place the text centered like this. Because if we have this still like this, the text here on the lines is not always perfectly centered. So as you can see, the center line moves to the left. And once we have it in this format, we create we do font, insert, fill, create outlines. Now we have the text in full vectors. At this point, we can't change the text anymore. So to have at least a backup, you should save your file before you do this step, this final step. And after you have everything vectored is important because once we send our lettering text to the client, to the printers, the lettering only works when they have the same fonts as we have. And they can change the fonts and the text as long as it is not vectorized. So when you transform it to outlines, it is not possible anymore to change the text for your clients and not for your printing company into a different font or into a different text. And the same goes for this. Mark it, transform it, and then create outlines. So now we have the whole text as vectors and outlines, and we can save it. Save as. So I will save it as AI file. Let's name it sample lettering. So what we can do now is to go to a different program like Photoshop. Let's get the whole Photoshop experience into this window. And I will show you how to place your artwork, your lettering onto the artwork. So you open the artwork file, and where's my layers? So let's delete this and this. And you go to place. Now again, my Photoshop is in German, but you can go to place. It's the same way as we do it in Illustrator. And go to the sample lettering file you just made. Let's go to lettering course and just Illustrator sample lettering. Oh, I should again. Let's go to this one. And let's go to the English one, and this should be the correct one. I hope it's the correct one. I'm not sure if it's the correct one. Yeah, it is the correct one. And it will place the lettering. So as I told you at the beginning of this workshop, why is the bounding box so important? So if I go back to my template, oh, this is my German Illustrator. Let's go to the English. The bounding box. The bounding box is the object that tells other programs, especially InDesign when you make the printing files, and Photoshop when you place it for showing samples or to place the final lettering on the artwork, is the bounding box, which is actually invisible, but it's still there. I can show it to you. It's still there. The bounding box tells the file, the program, how to place it on the artwork. If the bounding box is not placed correct, or if an object is outside the bounding box, it's possible that the lettering will be placed wrong and it could look like this, or it could look like this. And we don't want to have it. The bounding box actually tells my Photoshop program exactly where to place it on the final page, because my bounding box has exactly the same size as this page. That's how it should work. For just this course, I wanted to show you something to get a good eye for lettering. Let's open this. I wanted to show you a page, a piece of artwork, which is my all-time favorite lettered page ever. It's from The Flash from New 52, and oh, it's too big because the file is too big. Let's resize it like this. And here you can see a great placement for the lettering. You can see how because the cut of the trim areas already made, this text is outside the safety area, but in original it should be like this, like here. So because it should be more like the red box. So that's the correct setting. Let's say okay, center it. So now we have it correctly placed. And this way we can see, no, so we can see it's perfectly in the safety area. And as you can see, the balloon is outside the safety area. It's okay to have the balloon outside. It's just important to have the text inside the safety area. And as you can see, the artwork is also going outside. That's also okay. We call this bleeding. If artwork goes to the edge of the page, it's called bleeding. It's totally fine. But nothing important should be there. And why I like this page so much is because it shows us how perfectly can create an eye flow over the page. So the eye flow is how the eyes move over the page during the reading process. And you start at the top left here and go to the right. And the architecture of this artwork is helping perfectly to go this way. And then we go this way. So the lettering could be placed also here and here, but it is placed to create this kind of flow, to make the eye move smoothly above the art, in between these objects. It's like these objects are creating some kind of walls that direct us exactly how we need to go and how we need to read the page. And as you can see, this is going on here also. And I love this. It's like she is perfectly directing us with her fingers and these hands to the next lettering, to the next balloon. And we read this like that. And it's going like perfect. The lettering and the artwork is in perfect harmony and create such a perfect eye flow. Um, and you should study comic books like this to get a better understanding of how to place lettering. So I will end the recording at this point now because um, for the basics, everything should be here now to create at least a good template and to create the basic lettering. There are more complex, much more complex um, stuff you need to learn. For example, how to place text in the balloon when there's multiple text, because like when you have two two balloons, I personally think the first balloon should always be above the others, the first balloon, because if you have it like this, if this text is like here and this text is like here, the danger is that you read this balloon first and then this, and you go like this. Um, in this sample, it's not important if you read this before this, but it's something you always have in mind how to place the text, because in Western in the Western part of we prefer to start on the left top and we go down to the right as we read. And for example, if you have this one placed here and this one placed here, this is on the left, but this is above this. And you go from this panel to this panel, then this panel, you would immediately go to this one. But this one is the second one in this panel. We should read this first. But just this one is blocking our eye flow. That's why I always prefer to have the first balloon above the following in a panel. That's something you should consider when you place balloons. And there's much more you can learn. There are some books that are teaching how to letter. The best one is from Comic Craft. I can show it to you. Lettering the Comic Craft way. You can get it on Amazon and it's not very expensive. In euro, it shouldn't be this. It should be the same price in dollars. And it's one of the best books about lettering, about comic book lettering out there. And you will learn everything you need in this book. And another great place is at Qubit School uh, with teachers like Taylor Esposito, who is a great letterer. He's one of the best guys in the comic book industry, and he does a lot professional work for Marvel, DC, IDW, Boom Studios, and much other publishers. And he also works on a lot smaller companies. And yes, the DC guide is also good. And you also should go to the Blambot page, which is also placed in the pins. For the software, the standard software for US comic book lettering is Adobe Illustrator. Mostly because when you move the files around between different people who are working on the same book, for example, if you send your lettering to the company you are working for, it is important that the company can open that file and use it. The best way to do that, to make sure that works, is to use the same software that these companies use, and Adobe Illustrator is the standard format. The next best option is Adobe InDesign. InDesign can basically do the same as Illustrator. There are some features missing, for example, to shape sound words. So I know a few letterers who do the text in InDesign, but they do the sound words and the balloons on Illustrator. If you don't want to work with any Adobe product, the next best is Affinity. Um, Affinity is much cheaper. It's really good, affordable. It has everything that is important, but the disadvantage is the files created by Affinity can't be changed with other programs. The vectors can't be changed with Illustrator. You can print them with uh, at the printing company, but if you have a lettering file created in Affinity and you want to open it with another program, you can open it, but you can't change the vectors. That's a disadvantage. And the next good program is Clip Studio Paint. Clip Studio Paint has also some good lettering features, but you can't make vector files with Clip Studio. And the disadvantage of having the lettering in not in vectors is the printing quality is much it is not as good as uh, if you would if you have everything in vectors. The vector everything having vectors makes the printing quality much better. And also if you translate it in different languages and or change the size of the book. If you, for example, if you find someone who wants to print your book in a different language and they get your files and you have everything in vectors, they can just change the size of the whole thing without any big adjustments. That's also possible with Clip Studio Paints, but Clip Studio Paint is, I would say, a more beginner software for lettering. The really good lettering comes often from Illustrator because you have much more possibilities, especially with shaping the sound words. If you do the sound words within the line art, I think Clip Studio Paint is much better than. But if you want to do the lettering with the lettering process in a separate program, um, Illustrator has the best features. So I think this is everything you should have to learn and improve your lettering. And if you have any questions, or if you can also send me contact me and send me your material if you want feedback. Um, and if you want to learn more